This is my 1988 BMW K100 and quite possibly the most famous cafe racer on YouTube. You may recognize this bike from the Bay City Restoration build video, which currently has almost 4 million views. But one thing they never did was take you guys for a ride on this bike. So I'm gonna take you out, show you what it's like to operate this machine, and be sure to stick around to the end of the video where I share some unfortunate news about the fate of this motorcycle. You know what's crazy is, yes, I am married and I have kids. Somehow my wife lets me keep this thing in the house. The real reason this thing's in the house is because I collect old trucks and they take up an incredible amount of space. So she didn't really have a choice. Well, as you can see, I have a matching BMW 430i. So what Bay City Restorations did was paint this motorcycle Snapper Rocks Blue, which is a 2017-2018 BMW color. So they also put in a red leather seat. And when I found the 2018 BMW 430i, that was a convertible with the matching red leather interior. Well, I just couldn't help myself. And I think that this is a really cool combination to have. Speaking of that Snapper Rocks Blue, that is the first thing that jumps out to me when I saw this motorcycle, was this color combination. It is just beautiful, and when the sun hits it, it just pops against that red leather. He also blacked everything out. It's the original wheels painted black. All the engine casings and everything were painted black, and this bike originally started its life out as a touring motorcycle. So once everything's stripped down and made into this cafe racer style, it just completely changes the bike. Let's get this car out of the way. The car's cool, but the bike is way cooler. So a quirk with the K100, which is a design flaw from the factory, is that it is a flat inline 4-cylinder and the tops of the pistons are on the left-hand side of the bike. So anytime you shut the bike off, you could have some oil seep past the ring. So when you start it up, it may get a little smoky. But let's fire this thing up so I can throw on my gear, take it out for a ride. I also have not started this thing in about 4 months, so I'm curious to see if it fires off. Never had an issue with it before. There you go. There we go. All right, put her in gear, start rolling, let's go. Listen to that motor open up. It just sounds so good, dude. Just so good. That is the Atlantic Ocean. Today we're gonna ride on A1A, which stretches along Florida's East Coast. It is an absolutely beautiful highway. This motorcycle is, I mean, if you guys haven't been able to tell by now, an amazing motorcycle. It's one of my favorite motorcycles that has ever been made. I watched the Bay City Restorations video back in 2021. As soon as I saw the thumbnail for that video, I was like, I want that bike. I want to build that motorcycle. Bay City Restorations did a great job outlining every single part that they used, showing the entire process. And I thought, dude, I could do a motorcycle. I went on Facebook Marketplace to find a late 80s K100 to start my build. And lo and behold, this bike was for sale. And I thought when I saw it, I was like, this has gotta be some kind of joke. Anyway, I reached out to Michael and he's like, nah man, this is the real bike. Like I got it here for sale. So I said, dude, I'm coming in a couple of days. I want it. We agreed on the price and drove over to see him. He lives on the west coast of Florida. So it's about a 3-hour drive for me, not too bad. So I got there, dude, and the bike was everything that he said it was. He's a super stand-up guy. He builds some really, really nice bikes. He showed me the other bikes he had in process, and that was back at the beginning of 2022. On the same day, I found that BMW convertible that you guys saw at the beginning of the video, And I thought, well, shit, if I get the bike, I might as well get a car to match, because there was no other car for sale in the country at the time that was Snapper Rocks blue with a red leather interior. And the fact that it was a convertible was like even better. Even better. To have the actual Bay City Restorations Cafe Racer, to me, it's an awesome experience owning this motorcycle. Now let's get into drivability. As you guys can see, your view is pretty limited. You're pretty much looking at my tank and speedometer, right? So I really should be sitting like this on a bike, but I'm leaned so far over that, you know, you really kind of have this view. So the comfort is just not really there. And with these big scrambler style tires, I mean, you feel the road. You feel the tread going over the road. Look at that, guys. One of my favorite spots to eat right here, high tides. It's beautiful. The suspension is so low that when you hit a bump, you feel it. So the way that your legs are, your knees are your feet are like under your hips, right? So your knees are bent. So whenever you see a big bump coming, you just kind of, you get up like you're riding a horse. So the suspension on the bike sucks, but if you aid the suspension on the bike with your leg suspension, it's not so bad. But sometimes one gets by you and you feel it. The bike doesn't feel heavy. I mean, it maneuvers well. It's not a super fast, sporty bike, but it's responsive. The front end's not heavy like I feel like it would be with these really big tires. And overall, like, the drivability of the bike is quite enjoyable. It's responsive. You know, it's that old school kind of like just clunking through the gears, which I will say with the transmission, 4th gear to 5th gear doesn't really seem like much of a jump. So you're not going to be going like 200 miles an hour on this bike. So now this stretch of beach, this is the the south end of Flagler County. We're coming into Volusia County. What's up, buddy? So watch the way this changes. So we got condo front, ocean front condos. You got your ocean, and then here's the Volusia County line, and then there is nothing out here. It's just you, the drivers around you, and the ocean, which you probably can't really see. Let's give her some beans. So here we go on High Bridge. While I'm making this turn, another design flaw of the old K100 is the engine heat just goes right between your legs, man. And there's a fan that I have to manually turn on here when the bike starts getting warm. And it just blows, I mean, right there, right in the meat. Really awesome. I want to talk to you guys about ergonomics. We kind of touched on how your leg position is, right? Your legs are directly under your hips. Your feet are directly under your hips. These clip-on handlebars are so far down the front of the tank that you have to literally lay on the tank to get your arms up there. So I could ride this bike for about 20 to 30 minutes before I start getting uncomfortable. My wrists start hurting because my back's supporting. My wrists start hurting because I'm just so far over and it's supporting my upper body. My back starts to get tight because I'm constantly just lifting up on my torso. So you ride this thing because it's badass, not because you want to go on a 300-mile road trip. You know, let's just take it to the local meets. Cruise it around town, you know, take it to the office. You know, just cruise around roads like this. These houses are really cool. Allegedly, they are haunted. I actually spoke to somebody that owned one of these houses at one time. That was it was pretty cool. The only house is on this road, but that is your front yard. So because you're so far over the fuel tank, your range of motion, you can't see shit. Let's just be honest. Even when I'm trying to back the bike up, I have to literally take my hands off the handlebars and turn my whole upper body around to be able to see behind me so I don't bump into something. When I originally got the bike, it only had one mirror on it, so I had to put another one on because I just could not see anything behind me. This helps out tremendously. Plus, I don't really ride the bike that much, so whenever I do ride, you know, I just want to know who's around me, you know, because I don't ride fast, I don't do anything crazy. I just go out and I enjoy it because honestly, I am terrified to drop this bike. It's the scary things like oil on the road, sand on the road, somebody pulling out of nowhere and just dropping this thing and destroying it. That's what absolutely terrifies me about this motorcycle. I'm definitely not afraid of the power. It's not a super fast bike. Ooh! Ooh, it's a fawn. Okay, where there's one, there's more. Yep, there's one right there. There's a whole little family. Bye, babies. That was cool. Well, I really just ride this bike because it's fun. It turns so many heads. It's one of those bikes that's just so special that I don't really want to ride it every day. It's not like a daily driver. I'm not gonna hop on this thing. Like, if I had an XSR 900, I would ride that thing constantly. And even though, you know, I have kids and a wife and all that stuff, I feel like I would find the time because, one, it's way more comfortable. Two, I don't really care if it gets dirty. Three, if it gets damaged, it's a newer bike, so insurance will cover it. But something like this, like, to me, this cannot be replaced. This is a very, very unique motorcycle. There's only one like it in the world, and I just happen to be the lucky one to be taking care of it right now. Could you imagine living in one of these houses? On the other side is the intercoastal. Check this one out. That would be super sweet. I think we're gonna find a spot to turn around up here because I could keep going, and then there's another bridge that'll take us across the intercoastal and then head back up the other side, which is, it's a bunch of residential over there, which, I mean, there are some really beautiful homes, but it's not like this side at all. If I had some more time on my camera equipment, I might post up shop here and try to take some pictures, but I decided to not bring my camera equipment for the day. So one thing you may have noticed about this bike too is the turning radius is trash. These clip-ons really just do not give you any room to turn the bike. Just don't want to end up plastered on the side of the road out here. So now let's talk about the build quality of this bike. How well did Bay City Restorations put this thing together? Well, let me tell you, the build quality is extremely well. Michael has such an attention to detail, and he knows these bikes so well that he has figured it out with these bikes, and not just the K100s. I mean, he's built Suzukis, he's built Harleys, he's built a little bit of everything. So if you haven't seen the build video on this bike or any of the other build videos that he has, I'll drop a card up above to the build video for this bike. Well, I think that wraps up our drivability portion of this video, so let's get this bike back to the house and I could share with you guys the unfortunate fate of this old cafe racer. Ooh, watch out, bow tie. Come on. There we go.
I freaking love this bike, dude. I love the way it sounds. I love the way it looks. I love the colors, the lines, the parts used. I think they knocked this one out of the park. Unfortunately, I gotta sell it. I have some other projects I wanna bring into the channel. I got some parts I gotta buy. I got things I need to do in my garage, and unfortunately, this bike is really outside of what I normally do. While I do love motorcycles and I really enjoy riding them and building them and working on them, I just cannot justify. Hey.
Hey.
Bike's back in the house.
Mm-hmm. So nice to see it.
Yeah. I'll also be listing the convertible for sale, so if you're interested in the pair, shoot me an email to yeahbuddygarage@gmail.com. I'll also be doing a follow-up video on the bike, answering your questions that you post in this video, going over some more details, and announcing where it's for sale. But I appreciate you hanging around and watching this one. If you're already a subscriber, you're a freaking awesome human being. I gotta tuck this thing back into the corner, so I'll see you guys in the next video. I gotta do like a 30-point turn. Got tire marks on the rug right here. Boom, I have a hernia. There we go.